The Pam Goodwin Show is a show that features the biggest names in television, successful entrepreneurs, future new talents, and local heroes. Her grandfather was an iconic cowboy actor. She's a country music star with the country trio Runaway June. She's a business owner and soon-to-be mom. Welcome, Jennifer Wayne. I'm thrilled to have our next guest, Jennifer Wayne, on the Pam Goodwin Show. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to meet you. I know we have mutual friends, Tara and Tyler, and I'm just so excited to hear all about your background. So I want to start, how did you go from being a professional tennis player to where you are now, a superstar in the country music industry?
Well, it was a long road, but I grew up playing tennis. My dad was a tennis pro, and my two uncles were a tennis pro, and my aunt was a tennis pro. So I was kind of born with a racket in my hand. And I loved it, but my real passion was music. And so I played tennis all growing up and played in college. And my ex-boyfriend, he was my first boyfriend at the time, him and his brother are number one in the world, Bob and Mike Bryan. And we started a little band together, and we used to play shows at all the tennis tournaments. And so it was kind of a combination of music and tennis. And I got enough guts to move to Nashville, where I didn't know a single person. And that was about 16 years ago. And then from there, I didn't give up. I don't know why I didn't give up, but I didn't give up.
So what do you think gave your guts to, move from the Los Angeles area to Nashville?
Being naive. I really didn't. I had no idea how hard it was. And looking back now, I think, gosh, if I knew how hard it was, I probably wouldn't have gone. So it's kind of helpful sometimes to be young and naive. But I love music. Music was my passion, and songwriting especially. And I knew that Nashville had the best songwriters in the world. So I was kind of trying to do music in LA, but I knew that if you want to be the best, you have to be surrounded by the best. So I packed up my bags and moved.
So was that scary? What do you remember 16 years ago where you got started, or what do you recommend to people wanting to get in your industry?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. I moved, I didn't know anyone. I found a house on Craigslist, which is, crazy looking back at it. There were like 7 girls living in this house. And, I made a lot of mistakes when I first moved, and I actually think that that's how I grew. I learned, what I was good at, what I wasn't good at, what to do, what not to do. And so I would give my advice to anyone moving would just be to go for it, because the hardest thing is actually just making the move. Once you get there, you kind of figure it out, but you gotta make the first move and show up.
And I'm always giving that advice. You have to take action. So many people think about it, overthink about it, and nothing really happens until, like you said, you really have to take action. So now you're with a group, Runaway June, which is love your songs, love watching it on the country music shows, but it looks like you've opened up for some amazing people, especially one of my favorites, Carrie Underwood. How was that like?
Oh my gosh, Carrie is so awesome. She's such a superstar, but my favorite thing about her was she is one of the biggest stars in the world, but she was early to every sound check. She never missed one. She was really one of the hardest workers I've ever seen in my life. And being a superstar at that level, you kind of don't have to show up to everything. You can pick and choose. And she was at every single thing, and she was there early. And she had just had a child. So she was, taking care of a newborn baby on the road, which was kind of an inspiration to all of us girls, because we all knew that one day we wanted to start a family. And that sometimes seems impossible in this industry. And to watch Carrie do it really, gave us all inspiration. And so that was really cool for me to see. And I'll be asking her for a lot of tips coming up once my child's born.
I know. Congratulations. You're about next month in April, correct? You're going to have your first little one.
Yeah, I'm 6 weeks away from being able to drink wine.
How exciting. Also wanted to ask you, you have a famous grandfather, and what that was like growing up having John Wayne, the most famous cowboy, as your grandfather.
Gosh, well, I mean, I'm biased, so I think he's the best and he's my hero. But you know, growing up, you didn't know any different. It was just he was always my grandfather. And I joke, I would ask the kids in school, like, what channel is your grandfather on? I didn't know that that was something, you know, abnormal. I just thought everyone's grandpa was on TV. And then I think really probably in high school is when I started to realize that, oh, wow, he was really famous and impacted a lot of people and was, you know, a hero to a lot of people, including myself.
So is there any famous quotes? I know he had quite a few of them. Is there one in particular that stands out to you, one of his quotes that he always said?
Oh, yeah. Well, he said, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. And I love that. That's kind of, you know, my motto and what I use moving to Nashville. It's like, you're scared to death, but you just got to do it.
You just have to get on that horse. I did see, I read that he was actually afraid of horses, so he probably had to live by that. Is that true about that? He had to.
You know, I've asked my mom, because I've heard a lot of people say that he didn't like horses. And so I've asked my mom that, and she said maybe in the beginning, but he loved them, you know, as by the time she was born, he was in his 50s and he loved horses. And he said his favorite compliment was a Native American chief said, "You are the best white man rider I know."
No. That's great. And then how was it being being an athlete and then being selected for Amazing Race, the show? How was that experience?
Oh my gosh. That was just incredible. It was very difficult. You traveled around the world and you only had a backpack, no money, no food, no phone. But it was just amazing because you got to see places that you would probably never go in real life. Like, I don't think I would just take a trip to Sri Lanka or take a trip to Malaysia. And so you really got to see places that are unique and experience different cultures. And it was an experience of a lifetime.
Did you end up writing any song based off of your experience from being on the show and experiencing the world?
Yeah, I think, you know, not totally directed at Amazing Race, but yeah, a lot of songs were inspired out there. And we actually, my partner on Amazing Race and I wrote a song in the back of a cab. We were in Bali, and this cab driver was so nice and he was getting us there so fast. So we made up a song for him in the back of the cab.
Do you have a favorite song? I know you've even written for Keith Urban, correct?
Yeah, so his song out right now called Wild Hearts is a song that I co-wrote. And I love that song so much. It's a song kind of sticking to the theme of what we're talking about of, you know, don't give up on your dreams. And so many people are going to say you can't do it, but if it's in you and it's in your heart, you just got to go for it.
I know it seems like reading your story, you've had a wide variety of experiences, and just wanted to find out, you know, with your group Runaway June, what's the future plans for your group?
So we just got off tour with Luke Bryan, which was so fun. He's awesome. And I was joking. I'm like, my daughter's name is Lily. And I thought she's going to know a lot of Luke Bryan songs because she was up on stage with him every night for 4 months. But we're taking a little time off right now just for me to have the baby. And then we hit the ground running about a month and a half after she's born. So our first date is May 29th in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we're on the road for the rest of the year.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know we have mutual friends, Tara Joseph and Tyler, and Would love to. I love the American Paint hat. Every time I come back to Nashville, I have to have Tyler design one. We were just there in December, but how did you get involved with the two of them to be able, be co-owner with them?
So Tyler was our stylist for Runaway June for a long time, and him and I just became really close, and I love his visions, and I think he's so talented. And I had this idea of creating your own hats. I love hats. I wear them on stage all the time. And, you can go buy a hat, but it's not really personal to you. So I thought, wouldn't that be so fun if you could create your own hat? And so I told Tyler the idea, and he loved it. And he knew Tara. So we all got together. And it was funny. It was just really easy and fast. And we all loved it. And we just went with it. And normally I feel like that stuff takes a long time to kind of think about and, meet the right people. And it just felt like it was right from the very beginning with all three of us.
I found out quickly with the two of them, if you have an idea, watch out. It will happen quickly. When we did our event with Tara, Kiss Breast Cancer Goodbye, we started off as a small idea. And then next thing, who knew we would, have headliner Dolly Parton at our event.
That was incredible. I told her, I'm like, you've got the biggest star in the entire world. And I mean, someone that we all just adore.
No, so hopefully you'll be able to make it. We're having our second annual in Nashville on October 23rd, so hopefully you can make it. And your hat company, I've been telling Tara that, here in Dallas and Fort Worth, would love for you to do a pop-up, especially in Fort Worth, by the John Wayne Museum.
Well, you know what? We're talking about maybe coming over his birthday weekend, which is May 26th. So they usually do like a big John Wayne celebration. So we're in the midst of planning it. I hope it happens this year.
That's great. And I always ask my guests, what is on your bucket list, both professionally and personally?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so my bucket list, what is on it professionally? I would say to have a number one song. I've come close so many times and it's just never gotten to number one. So with the Keith Urban song right now, we're at 16, I believe, on the charts. And to have a number one song would just be, what everyone dreams of. And then personally, bucket list, having a child, I guess, was probably my number one on the bucket list. And I just didn't know if it was going to ever happen because my career and I hadn't met the right person. And so I'm 39. God gave it to me just in time. I was on a countdown.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love your bucket list. I know what did you in Nashville, you used to do radio sales. So you have kind of the back knowing how people actually, how do they become number one for their song typically?
Oh my gosh, it's a lot of work. It's hard to explain in a small amount of time, but there's a lot of people out there working for you and working for the artist. And that's something I didn't know. I just thought, oh, someone writes a song and it goes to radio and then it just either does well or it doesn't. There's an entire team of people fighting for that song to be played at every single radio station. So it's a big team effort.
Does it help to call the radio stations and request the song like we used to do 20, 30, 40 years ago?
You know what? It helps just for morale, but really these stations are all kind of on a playlist now. The songs are kind of locked in on a playlist. So some of the smaller stations still have control and calling them, requesting helps, but it's a little bit different than it used to be.
Well, thank you. For anything else you want to add for the show that you want to promote or anything you're doing?
Oh no, I just have to say I love your state. Texas is one of my favorite states in the country. So I almost said in the world. In the country.
Thank you.
God bless Texas.
That's right. I think we're our own. We feel like we're our own country most of the time, but hopefully soon you'll be here in Texas, and that'd be great in Fort Worth. It'd be great to see you. And thank you again, Jennifer Wayne, for being on the Pam Goodwin Show. I'm excited, especially next month for your life-changing. It'll change your life. It'll be wonderful. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thanks for having me.